and welcome to the Evidence and Reasons for the Christian Faith video channel. Thank you for joining us at this after show. And this was an eventful day. I had a very good talk at Liberty University, and then we had this debate. I felt I fared, I fared okay. The other guy was definitely out to crush us, and he had a lot of qualifications. Let me just say this: 18 years ago, I was in the same position. People were just beating me down. They're like, "You're not a biologist," or this or that, and they just kept beating me down. They said, "You haven't done this or that," and then I went back to school and started studying. I acquired 2 master's degrees. It was a different story. So this is to be expected that they have a lot of knowledge. Sometimes the thing is I look at the long game. Just because they may score points in one debate, what they have done is tell you where your weak spots are and where you can get better at it. And in fact, I'm not. People think my goal is to win debates. My goal is to get at the truth and to find out what the other side has, because in the long term. Because the things is, even in the exchanges, I felt the other side had prevailed, partly because I was getting bad information from creationists and ID proponents at the time. The other side revealed their hand, and it wasn't. But a few years later, they started to get crushed, because then I was onto their game and I knew how to read their literature. And what ends up happening is when you can get access to their literature and critiques of their own literature, then they won't be able to play the same hand the next time. So this isn't the last word. And there's certainly things, I'll do a self-critique, because what happens in the live debate, it's like you don't have time to think. And it's often happened to me that, even a week after or later, as I review it, it's like, I could have done this better, and this is what I could do. So I'm just going to do a self-critique at some point, what I could have done better. I'd like to thank everyone that joined. And anyway, Christopher, thank you so much for inviting me to be a part of your debate. You got to, I got to.
No, I didn't. That was all. What's his name? The owner of the channel. I didn't even know who. I'm not even used to doing debates like tag style, so I wasn't looking for a partner or anything. I was suggesting he do a 2-on-1. He doesn't like to do that because gets bad feedback in the comment section, I guess.
Well, yeah, that was James setting this up, and debates are for show. Learning is for dough.
Yeah, if I would have known that you would have been available as a partner, yeah, the first person I would have called.
Well, who would have been a good partner, and I missed an opportunity. So I'm going to give a self-critique here. He said, "Look at all these people that reject it," and I was dumb enough. I totally forgot. I'm here at Liberty University. They have a geology department, and they're a young Earth creationist accredited school in the United States. How do you have geologists here that teach geology at an accredited school? And I lost an opportunity there. I kept referring to Tim Clary because I didn't, I wasn't that quick on my feet. Then you have Cedarville University. In fact, some evolutionists have said they have so much respect for John Whitmore at Cedarville. Whitmore's a young Earth creationist. They'd be glad to study under John Whitmore. And I totally blew that opportunity. If I had in my pocket the numbers of young Earth creationists who are either professional geologists or professors at accredited American schools who teach geology, I would have had the advantage. That's something I can improve on for sure. How do you feel you did?
I don't know. It doesn't. Not up to me. It's just up to the people, that watched it. I don't know. I'm pretty sure that I won. I'm pretty confident that we both slaughtered those 2 individuals. If people that are actually thinking, watching the debate, they know that we won because the evidence in our favor. First of all, the Bible says it, and second of all, it's just plain observable. They want to hide behind their PhDs, and Tom, he didn't even really say much of anything. It's just that, it's a arrogant mentality. You could see that we were not being the arrogant ones. Obviously, we're conceding. We're saying, yeah, that could, and then they're like, oh, well, there's no evidence, and you're just totally
Oh
wrong.
yeah.
You can see who's biased in the debate. That says a
Oh
lot.
yeah. Okay, so Tony, I could tell we were getting under his skin for sure, and he made very good points. And I'm going to toss in an apologetics. He's gone. He called me dishonest, and I'm not going to tolerate that. So bye. That's Rob Bro, and I do not tolerate. He did that to me the very first day he met me, and he didn't know me, and
Yeah.
I didn't say anything to him that should have offended him. So I'm certainly done with him. I'd like to thank everyone who's come in, and so Rebecca Davis is trying to call me. Rebecca, if you're around, I'm really sorry that I'm using my smartphone to do this StreamYard call, and I would have to drop out to take the call. So I'm really sorry I can't take your call, Rebecca. If you'd like to join the after show, why don't I send you an email? If you wanted to say something, I'm going to try to communicate to Rebecca. Would you be okay with her joining the stream? Because she actually was she was a backup debate partner after you. But I didn't know what was I didn't know whether I was supposed to be your partner or you're supposed to be mine. James did not make that clear. So that's how we decide who's going to be the backup. And I said, I don't even know if that was the way it's supposed to be. So if you could talk for a little bit, do you have time?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can bring whoever you want on this thing. It's your stream, brother. 6, 7 people, I don't care.
I'm going to limit it.
Yeah.
No, I think the other side, well, TJump was pretty silent, but when I was calling the other guy out on circular reasoning, he really got upset. He said, I have peer-reviewed papers where I studied stuff that happened 140,000 years ago, and he was citing all these things, and then I was like, it's kind of pathetic. You don't see. You're kind of assuming the premise that you're trying to prove, and that's circular reasoning, and he got really upset. So I think there's areas we could learn, and I'm going to text Rebecca. If you want to say something while I try to communicate to her.
It was definitely a good debate. I mean, I was solid because it didn't turn into a dumpster fire, and there were multiple topics brought up. So, thinking out of the box and thinking about these things. That's what the debates are for. Just basically, get those things out there. Throw the paint on the wall and see if somebody can identify something. Just throw stuff out there. That's what we're trying to do, because people generally are not even aware that these kind of debates are even happening. It's like evolution is settled to most people. That's what the scientists believe. So, they just kind of deal with it. That's what I did before I heard of the creation side. I wasn't even like, I don't know, I think it was like 21 years old or something before I finally heard the creation model, which is insane. It's just not out there, It's not like evolution. It's not like a propaganda machine that runs 24/7. That's creation is what they don't talk about. You got to go to a YouTube channel that has less than 1 million subscribers, and then you'll find creationism. So it's like Tony's whole argument about how we're not going to get into, you just publish it in a peer-reviewed journal, and then it'll get settled and people will review it. But the thing is that they don't allow creationists to publish in peer-reviewed journals. It is biased towards creationists. You can talk to Robert Gentry, who was denied his PhD dissertation because he wanted to do it on the age of the Earth. Okay, and then he made several publications in peer-reviewed literatures, like creation scientists do to this day. They publish in secular peer-reviewed literature. The thing about it is they can't submit a publication, they can't submit an article that is evidence for creation or evidence against evolution, because then it will be rejected. So it's as simple as that, you know. It doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter how many times you publish in the literature. If you're going to try to publish for creation or against evolution, it's not going to be considered relevant. So they're not going to put it in their magazines because they don't believe that it's even a relevant issue. You know, that's not what the government is funding. It's not what everybody believes, and that's not what they want to teach. You know, the people who have control of the education system, they're simply biased, and it's obvious.
Well, you know, one thing oh, Rebecca's here.
We are the champions, my friends. Hi. Good job, guys.
Hi.
How did you feel the debate went?
It was okay. I felt, well, I mean, it wasn't like the way I felt like I crushed people. I think though I kind of injured. I would say that I'd say Tony won the debate, but not resoundingly. And I think that there'll be another round. I don't think he'll fare as well. Because that's the problem with short debates. It's Brandolini's law, and then also, he could just keep throwing stuff at you. And right there, I realized I was falling into the trap, and that he kept asking us questions, and I'll say, well, why don't you? I should have kept hammering and say, you didn't explain the chemical dates. And I said they were relevant. What I could do is just keep repeating that and say, one ugly fact's going to overturn all your stuff. One ugly fact. And I should have just said, well, I may have only mentioned it in passing. I could have just kept repeating it. It would really annoy him. And I should have recognized that maneuver a lot quicker than try to respond to his questions. The thing to do is, if you have something to overturn what he has, keep hammering away at it. The faint unsung paradox, he was making stuff up and just doing stuff off the cuff. We could be more effective at that. But I actually did talk with Jake Hebert here at Creation Research Society meeting. And that's one of the good reasons to be on relationships with people. I specifically asked Tony, do you believe the Milankovitch cycle, would it disrupt your viewpoints? He said it would cause some damage because he cited it. And I don't know that much about it, but Jake has claimed to refute it. But what's really bad, I looked this up, and it assumes that the Earth is already 100,000 years because the cycles happen on those scales. That is actually circular reasoning, and I was about to pull the trigger on that. He won't be able to do that. Oh yeah, next legal. Yeah, it wasn't my expertise, and next legal is on my side, and that, but that's a chance to learn how to go the next round, because this was a professional geologist who's been doing this for decades. And, losing a debate doesn't mean you've lost the facts, because, I should have just kept hammering the chemical dates, but I was getting under his skin. I said, sir, that was circular reasoning. He's publishing. I said, you're assuming the premise of what you're already trying to prove. And he said, this, or, he just kept going. So, if Next Legal feels that way, I do respect that. So thank you.
Well, I was doing my own stream during the majority of the debate, so all I got to see was the question and answers. So I didn't get to see how you did, but I did like one answer that you gave when, like, they were talking about the dating of the how the oil discovery is based on all those dates. I really liked your answer on that. You were like, look, we're talking about where the oil is presently, and you guys are
Exactly.
attaching a story to it. But, I would like to know, how did this get him? Basically, I can't repeat the whole thing you said. You did.
Oh, no, what I said is exactly that. I said, the way you find oil is now based on the data you have in the present. It doesn't depend on what happened in the past. Now, you can put a story on what happened in the past, and then it might predict it may give you predictions of what's here and there, but I should have been quicker and say, geocentrism makes good predictions about the sun rising and setting every day. It doesn't make it true. So that was one area I could have slammed him on that, but it didn't hit me right away. This is about one of the good things about having an after debate show. I'm not here to try to say I did well and spin it. No, I'm here to find out how to do better next time. Because the next time he pulls that, see, this is one thing. The worst thing you could do is not learn from quote unquote your mistakes. And that's why I want to have this after show. I'm not here to try to spin and say I did better than I did. No, you have to have an honest evaluation and say, this is what I could have done better. I could have been quicker and say, well, geocentric theory works so well. Look at how well it predicts the sun. It must be therefore true. Of course, and I happen to have that in my inventory and I didn't use it. So I'll know that the next time. So that's one thing. And then I have all these universities in the United States where you have young earth creationists for geologists and also petroleum geologists. So as far as what Next Legal said, there were exchanges where I've lost before. And the worst thing you could do is not learn from how to get better at it. And I could tell Tony was trying to throw his A game at us today. And you're not going to have that chance again. I don't know that we'll have a rematch, but there'll be someone else. He cited the Milankovitch cycle. And if I'm getting this right, and the Milankovitch theory, Milankovitch theory, let me put it up on the screen here. And he was using, he was trying to prove one of his points on the Milankovitch cycle. This is the problem with Brandolini's law. You could say stuff that's going to take a long time to refute it, but it says kilo years. So it already assumes 800,000 years in the past. And I said, you can't use a theory that assumes the premise you're trying to prove. And I said, the chemical dates will moot that. And Jake Hebert, I asked him, I said, would you review what Jake Hebert? And he kindly said, I'll look at it. He said, I don't read anything unless it's peer reviewed. And I said, oh, and I could have caught him on this. I said, but you're a reviewer. That means you read things that haven't been reviewed yet. And I just realized that, because how does it get into peer review unless he reviews it? So, that was kind of funny that he's just going to close his mind to anything that's not in peer review, but yet he's a reviewer who will read things that aren't already reviewed because he's the reviewer. That's part of his job. So I could have caught him on that, but I hope Jake can get feedback from him, because Jake has criticized the Milankovitch cycle, and I would like to highlight Jake's work. He and I had dinner tonight, and he's kind of a quiet creationist, and I undervalued what he had done because my area was in biology and also in alternative alternate means of changing nuclear structure. So anyway, Rebecca, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, I will go back and watch the debate tomorrow. Like I said, I was really excited to see it, but I already had my stream planned. So
yeah, no, it wasn't. I think we did as good as we could against a professional geologist, but he laid out his hand and how he's going to play the game. And you know, I've I've dealt with this before. Like Speed of Sound will cite, look at the 13,000 peer-reviewed articles on abiogenesis. I just laugh. And you look at all the journals of evolutionary biology and hundreds of thousands of papers, and I just laugh. And he was like, "This is the standard of what's true." I said, "No, facts are the standard, not the." I wanted to say, "No, facts are the standard, not the opinions." So the problem is he's equating what he calls speculations about the past with operational science, and um, you can't equate it. And he said, "Did you study evolutionary biology? How are you qualified to critique it?" I was just, that would I need a good comeback for that, because it's a garbage discipline, and it falls apart on its own. You don't have to be a student of evolutionary biology to critique it, any more than you need to be a student of creationism to critique it. It helps, but you don't have to graduate from creationist schools to critique it.
And being in the field kind of makes it harder for you to critique it, because if you enter into evolutionary biology, you probably already believe in evolutionary biology, right? Like, who's going to go into that field unless they're like going undercover or something,
Oh, that's right. If you're in the field, it's harder to critique it because
you've already
can you say that
accepted it.
again?
Well, you've already accepted it, right? You're assuming that it's true if you're going into it. So, right? I mean,
Yeah, and there have to be examples where an outsider can legitimately critique something. And we could say evolutionary biology, this is like asking creationists. You can't critique creationism unless you've studied in creationist schools. And I'm glad I asked him whether he believed evolutionary theory. I was laughing at that point. And he said, "It's really not my field." Okay, so um, so yeah, we'll review it. And the thing is I should have been more I could have been more verbose like him, and I could have just kept citing facts. He was very good at saying, "What about this? What about this? What about the concordance?" I could have had a lot more data and said, "No, you have a problem here, I have a problem here." So we have to have like more of the longer list of problems with geology. And I've often said, young Earth creation is a lot harder to debate than anything else. Than ID, a lot harder to debate. So you need to get the repertoire. And sometimes he'd be very dismissive. Like, I thought Christopher put something good about the mammoths. And he said, no, it could just fall into a river and freeze, and it's cold. I'm like, that's again Brandolini's law. And I didn't know quite how to deal with that, because that's worth investigating. But I really was hoping that more talk would be about rapid burial in order to create fossils. And that, we didn't have a chance as a team to explore that. Probably the better strategy is to have a list to just attack and not answer his questions. To say, well, let's grant that, but you still have a problem here, and let me list it. Because you can't let him define the terms of the engagement, especially if you have other facts on your side that you want to put on the table. See, what's happening is he was denying us the chance to put facts on the table. And part of that also, what hurt our side was, we need a longer list of facts to engage him on, and say, well, I'm not familiar with that, but look at this problem. And it's like, okay, I'm gonna,
Yeah.
Does the fact that I don't have an answer to your question resolve the problem I'm pointing at? Go on, Rebecca.
Well, you need longer to prepare for a debate like this, really, to do a really good job. You have to know who you're going up against more
Yeah.
than 2 days in advance, and be able to prepare for what their expertise is, right? So
Yeah. But I think he got dinged a little bit. I don't think we rolled over as easily as he thought, because he's used to debating flat earthers. And I think he was picking up this was, he's going to get a little bit of, he got dented. He was getting really upset. He was starting to interrupt me, even when he was accusing me of interrupting him, and I apologize. But then he started doing the same several times and not letting me finish. I actually like TJump's performance.
What performance? He even talk.
That's why I liked it.
Yeah.
Christopher, I didn't get to hear your part. What did you talk about?
Like in the intro, I just brought up various ways to show that the Earth is young, and then Mr. PhD came at me with like, well, there's all these ways to change how things are happening in the past, and so we've answered all that already. Therefore, I'm wrong because he's already provided an answer. That's their logic. Oh, because I gave an answer, I'm right. Because I have 1,000 different explanations for all the problems you're giving me. Therefore, all of my solutions are correct. But I don't know. That's just arrogancy. That's pride. That comes straight through though when you look at these guys and the way that they talk to us, their demeanor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
well,
he was. Oh yeah, he reminded me of Demeter, his attitude, and it caught me off guard because sometimes I should have been asking more questions, and I should have been pointing out, you have faith statements, sir. You don't know that for a fact. And he said I was publishing on stuff that of this, the paleo magnetic data for the last 140,000 years. And I said, sir, he got really offended when I pointed out. I said, it's terrible to hear an academic appear to circular reasoning. You're assuming the premise that you're trying to prove. This is terrible. And he just flipped out. He said, you're lying. This is becoming a lie.
Yeah, that's like, I don't know what he was on there, but he was calling us liars, saying that basically when we suggest that we have good evidence for the flood or for the Earth being 6,000 years old, we're lying, and we shouldn't be allowed to misrepresent data. He's basically saying that we can't have our own opinion, trying to assert that.
Yeah. By the way, Rebecca, I tossed Rob Rowe from my channel. I told him
I saw.
Yeah.
What did you say? I mean, I wasn't here when you did it, but I saw that his message was deleted. So what happened?
He didn't say anything. He didn't say anything offensive to me, but I just pointed out, you don't call me a liar. Like the first time you meet me, and I didn't even say anything to him. He just waited and called me a liar. I said, I don't tolerate that. That was totally unbecoming of someone claiming to be a Christian. And I just don't want to deal with it. And he has nothing to add to the conversation anyway, in my opinion. So anyway, I'm sorry, Chris. I totally derailed this. Yeah, he was arrogant and all that. And I mean, the way you knock someone like that, it was just funny. He said, I've been studying this for years. I'm a reviewer. Look at all the peer-reviewed papers. And I counted and I said, that doesn't amount to anything. Look at all the failures of evolutionary theory. Thousands of papers have been overturned in just the last 2 months because of an experimental discovery. That's not the measure of truthfulness. That didn't seem to faze him, One experiment overturned thousands of papers.
Which experiment?
It was about the mutations. So some mutations will give the same amino acid. We call that a synonymous mutation. And they said it doesn't have an effect. It turned out it did. And thousands of papers on evolutionary theory were based on the assumption that certain mutations don't have an effect. Thousands of papers were dependent on this. They were overturned by one experiment. And this experiment was published in Nature. Just like, oh, that hurts. But, and then there are claims that have just floated around in peer review, and they're wrong. And so anyway, yes, Sal is hosting from his phone. And I'm here at Liberty University. I'm still here at Liberty University. So, yeah. Chris, did you have more thoughts? About specific technical points. I really didn't pay attention to when you're having your exchange with him. I would have preferred that you start putting out some data rather than trying to let him question you as if he's an interrogator. I could have done that a little more. I guess I'm such a nice guy. I should have been, given how snotty he was, I could have gotten in his face and demanded he answer my questions. And I didn't realize I should have turned the tables and not let him do that to me. But you see, this is what I don't like about, like, we have to prove the Earth is young. I didn't like the framing of the debate question. What it should have been, you have to prove that the Earth is old. And they're on the defensive. We're in the position to demand answers. So, and Tony, I was impressed. He said, I didn't like the framing of the debate by James. And I do have to complain. Sometimes James will put a title there that I didn't agree with. I didn't sign up for that title. So it was framed as an atheist versus theist debate. And even though I would suspect Tony is not a Christian, he didn't like the framing of that. He's trying to say, there are Christians that agree with this. Don't frame it as atheist versus theists. And also, I didn't like the framing. James didn't ask me whether it's 6,000 years. He put that title up there. I just wanted to frame it, is the Earth really this old? It would have totally turned things around. So I could have been more assertive and said, James, unless you give a title and you're more clear, it's unfair to us. So, I think that young Earth creationists sometimes are too eager to prove their point. They might have a better time if they try to show that the other guys haven't proved their point. Make them defend their beliefs a little more. And so the title of the talk kind of forced us in a bad position.
Yeah, well, we're in a bad position either way. They already have the power. They have the majority on their side already. Everybody in the scientific community already agrees with what they're saying. So we've already lost before we entered. We're like Daniel in the lion's den out there, These people are going to be a lot smarter than we are, and we're just going to have to tell them the truth regardless, because that's what the Bible says, that you're going to be considered a fool when you go around talking about Christ. The Greeks are going to look at you and say that you're a fool, and you don't understand how slime evolved into a human, because even the Greeks believed in evolution back then. But they're not smart at all, Doesn't matter if you have more degrees than a thermometer. When you're disagreeing with what can be observed and what the Bible says, you're not in a good position. Anybody can see it. It's obvious.
Well, guys, I think I'm going to have to head out because it's my bedtime.
Yeah, well, thank you for joining us, Rebecca. And I'll listen to the voicemail you left. I'm glad you're able to get through and join us. So, and I want to give you a personal thanks for offering to be a backup, to be my partner. And, we're not going to win every battle. And there'll be things that we can learn from. If you wonder why I'm kind of brushing this off, I was at the CRS and I did get to hear professional geologists. They were there. I didn't go to those because I was so focused on what I had to say. But there was a lot of stuff just destroying evolutionary, and I was happy about that. This is my first time weighing into geology, but I think this is a good opportunity for me to learn more. And I did point out at Modern Day Debate, David McQueen, he was a professor at George Mason University, my undergrad alma mater, and he's a young earth creationist. It's like, how do you explain that he succeeded in secular academia? And maybe I'll just have a longer list, but we'll just see. We'll just see how it goes. The reason I'm kind of confident is I've been through this before 20 years ago, where I was getting beat down just this badly. And they kept saying, you don't know nothing, you're unqualified, et cetera, et cetera. And that lasted for a while, but it wasn't forever. That lasted for a while. It wasn't forever, because I did have an opportunity to learn and go to school and learn the other side's views and also learn the science. So what would be hang on, I need to dispose of someone.
Whenever you get in a losing position, though, with the evolutionists, you just remind them of simple things that they believe, and it's enough to basically just demolish them right on the spot. It's not hard to mock evolution. It's ridiculous,
Well, the thing is that when this is really funny. I want to hear what the other side says, and it's better when someone else can kind of be what they call the cannon fodder, where they're the ones that get shot at, and you then begin to know how the opponents will prosecute their debate, and then you can record it and then try to formulate your arguments. So some of the anti-evolutionary arguments, I had to listen carefully to the debate, and it took a few years to construct something to knock them over the next time. And this is the sort of thing that might have to be done with geology. But again, the next time around, I don't want it being framed as like you have to prove 6,000 years. I
want it to be framed that the Christian is wrong and the evolutionist is right. That's what I want it to be framed. And we'll see on Judgment Day. We'll see who's right and wrong, and who's going to be burning, and who's going to be living peacefully in paradise forever. Us or them. Because if I'm wrong, it's fine. I'm just going to be recycled into a worm or a plant, and I lose nothing. But if they're wrong, they're in trouble. And that's what I enjoy showing them. You're in a lot of trouble despite how right you think you are. And man, that's not going to be, it's like, oh, I'm so smart and I have all of these answers, and then you die and go to hell. What are those answers giving you? It's a spiritual battle here. They don't reject God because of their science. They reject God because of their sin, because they don't like God telling them what to do. They're angry with him. And I'm angry at them.
Yeah. It occurred to me he didn't deal with the magnetic argument very well. I'm just realizing that. He just started tearing into us and ignoring. That was actually pretty clever on his part, where I said the Earth's magnetic field is decaying, and that's a testable prediction. How do you deal with that? He actually didn't explain. And the Wikipedia article indicates that we actually don't know the origin of the Earth's magnetic field. We don't know where it came from. So how are we going to model it? And if it is decaying, that would suggest the Earth is young. So
yeah, I mean, he didn't address it. They bailed on a couple of things, man.
Yeah, you have to actually notice that. The problem is sometimes they're quick to change the subject, and you didn't realize you actually had something good. You only find out that it's good because they ignored the question. And maybe the next time I throw something out and they change the subject, it's like, no, I have to go right back to the subject. And so that's something for me to realize the next time, because I was letting him start to question me again. that was because of the title of the debate. And
I didn't even get to give my like favorite argument against the evolutionists. You know, that's sad because he was going off on the peer review stuff, and that's
right.
that's
So
what I
we
like
got
to do is stop at the peer review. I
yeah.
didn't even.
Exactly. So we got derailed. We let him derail it, and then also we let James put a title to the talk that really put us at a disadvantage. So, we'll learn this the next time. But Rebecca is smiling, and I want to know why she was laughing so hard.
Well, I mean, I was laughing, but I was not. I mean, it was kind of like maybe a nervous laughter because Christopher was just, you were expressing such hostility toward, and like, it kind of delighting in the fact that, people will be judged by God and stuff like that, and just saying that you were angry. And I hope you can come to the place where it doesn't make you so angry, because I think, when you get at that point, it's kind of missing the love of God for people.
The reason
Well,
I
the
asked
Bible
is,
says to pull them out of the fire. Some scoffers you have to slap. Some people listen through their nose instead of their ears. So you have to wake them up, and then they see it sometimes. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they're just stubborn and they're never going to see the truth, But with these guys who are incredibly angry against God, you have to make more drastic measures,
wait,
Bring out the SpongeBob and hit him on the head with a hammer, for
hang on,
instance.
Christopher.
Sometimes it makes them think.
Janet, don't leave yet. I wanted to ask if Rebecca would pray for Janet right now online. Could
Sure. Yeah.
Could you join us in prayer for Janet? She's a disabled widow. We should pray for someone like her. So, Rebecca, if you could lead us.
Yeah. Lord, we thank you so much for
Janet.
Janet. We thank you for her faith and her testimony and the hardships that she endures, the fellowship of suffering with Christ. And we just pray for her right now to be totally and completely healed. We ask, Lord, that you would restore and give her no pain, that there would be nothing in her body causing her to suffer. But Lord, we just ask you for full restoration for her. May she walk, may she enjoy life. And so we pray for healing for our sister. Amen.
Amen. One reason I also have a lot of confidence, I've seen this debate unfold over the last 40 years. And there are data points we have now that we didn't have 40 years ago. And we wouldn't even be in the fight if God didn't provide. And I'm expecting he's going to continue to provide. One area already that I saw in the debate, he was citing the Milankovitch cycle and the Milankovitch theory. I know Jake Hebert, he's a scientist of integrity. And he said, I've falsified it and I'm being ignored. I thought I was going to be attacked. And he said, that's how they decided to fight me, just to ignore me, because if they actually started to highlight it, it would show problems. And then Tony was saying, I don't read anything unless it's reviewed. And I'm just like, well, then how are you going to ever know anything? And then I specifically asked, are you a reviewer? Which means he actually does read things that aren't reviewed. He offered to read Jake's stuff. And that's what Jake wanted. He wanted the mainstream to review it. He said he'd be delighted if they tried to criticize it.
Yeah, they're all reviewed to delight it. And then as soon as it goes to head office, it's going to get rejected. You're going to get the stamp out and pow, not happening, denied.
And I should have been quicker, really. I was, I'm trying not to be upset with myself because you do what you can. But he was asking me, were you an evolutionary biologist or did you study? And I should have said, there's no reason for me to study circular reasoning and stuff that doesn't agree with other disciplines. I should have been quicker at that. And, unfortunately, at this point, I'm not able to see where the flaws yet are in the geological argument, because it is also pretty difficult. So,
Good night, guys.
anyway, yeah.
Night,
Rebecca, thank you
Rebecca.
so much for praying for Janet.
Yep. Thank you. Good night. Bye.
And God bless you. We'll be in
God
touch.
bless you. God bless you, Christopher.
You too.
So,
What do you mean it's hard to explain? How does it make any? How is it hard to explain?
relative to debating evolutionary biology is very, very easy.
Yeah, but geology is easy. Just look at the fact that the entire column that they have doesn't even exist anywhere. That's like the most obvious glaring contradiction to what they believe is. The damn thing doesn't exist. Why are you using it? It's a jigsaw puzzle that they have to piece together, and with forensic evidence that they're able to come up with all of this stuff. In Oklahoma, where I live in Oklahoma, in the Permian strata, you know, where all the insects and the coal, like all of that, well, above those layers doesn't exist in Oklahoma, except in the panhandle. Everything else is like low. So all of that top half has just been completely scoured off the whole state and much of the continent. So it's the column, even if you can find it isolated in one place or another, it will not be the complete column. Not even close to it.
Yeah, you know, the thing is if I'm going to start defending young Earth, I really do need to learn some of the geology. That's something to think about, because it is. I would not minimize the difficulty of the opponent on any front. You know, God gives the other side some ability to oppose us, and it was in this thing about like a pencil that looks bent and it's actually straight. It's not like God is being deceptive, but it took thousands of years to figure out the answer to why pencil looks bent when it's actually straight once it's dipped in water. And you know, I try not to, you know, don't underestimate what the other side has in terms of arguments. That's just my feeling. But I could tell you, arguing biology is really easy compared to geology, because we have a lot of experimental evidence and we just have so much more information about how things really are. I think the geology literature, you know, like they'll say, okay, by comparison, you can break apart a cell, look at it in the microscope. We can't actually dig down into the earth very far. We don't know what's going on down there very, you know, as well as we would like.
We do know massive cold slabs are underneath those trenches.
And you see, that was one data point did you put that out tonight? About the massive cold slabs? Did you put that on the table?
No, it wouldn't matter what we put on the table. They're not going to accept any of it. They're going to have an explanation for it as well, and it's going to be a good explanation. Let's be wrong.
Well, I'm not expecting them to be convinced, but wouldn't it have put them on the defensive if we put the cold slab on?
I mean, yeah, probably, but what's going to get them defensive when you start talking about how there's going to be judgment from God and how what they believe is ridiculous and absurd? That's what makes them angry. Bring up God, bring up hell, or bring up how stupid their religion sounds, and you'll see an evolutionist get angry in a hot second. Tom was doing it every time that I brought something up negative against evolution. He was like, "Stop!" That's what he does, or he moves his hands. Because he's freaking, it's like he's mutating, you know, when his religion is getting destroyed.
Yeah.
You can tell. People can tell when they watch the debate how he reacts, what they're doing. You know, it's very easy. They lost. Even if we lost, we still win in heaven. So, and people can see that as well, that we're going to win in the afterlife if these guys, you know, continue doing what they're doing. Because a lot of people are Christians on that. Maybe most of them are atheists, but the ones that we're trying to reach are Christians who are either, they want to become Christians, or they're Christians and they're losing their faith because of some stupid teaching. We just got to show them how bogus it actually is, and it's pretty easy to be strengthened after that point.
Well, I want to thank you for being my partner and joining me in the after show. I actually should try to get turned in early because I need to travel up to Culpeper tomorrow, which is a couple hours away to go to church. So it was a pleasure, and you take care. Please stay in touch.
Yeah, likewise. I got your
give you the
email
last
and
word.
everything.
Since I invited you here, please you can have the last words. If you have something on your heart you'd like to share.
Yeah, I don't really have any last words, but I have your email, and I'm subscribed to your channel now. Obviously, I'm here, but yeah, I appreciate you teaming up with me. I think you're an awesome partner, and a lot smarter than me. Those guys are a lot smarter than me too, but the Lord's on our side, so we don't have to worry about who's smart or who's dumb. And people that are watching it, and maybe they're on the fence, we don't know where people are at, but that's where God comes in. We do what God tells us, and we proclaim his teachings and his commandments, and then they're gonna have to sort it out for themselves, and if they make the wrong decision, that's on them, because we did what God told us to do. We proclaim the truth even when it hurt us, even when people laughed at us. We still held to what we believed. That's what's going to matter. That's what's going to save you from eternal fire. It's what's going to get you rewards in heaven, is doing what God said on this earth, despite what hateful things that the world brings at you for it. Because when you shine your light, it exposes their sin, and they don't like that. So just keep shining the light, Thank you. Thank you, Sal.
Thank you, and God bless you. God bless everyone here. It's been a long day, and thank you everyone who participated in the comment section. It's still here, and take care until we meet again. Have a good night.
All right.
One moment, I'm still here. I haven't shut down. I'm gonna play the end credits.